What is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I'm your host, Jay. Who else but me? And welcome to your second helping of The Rose Show on this Thanksgiving week. I just want to say, with this being a Thanksgiving week, I hope everybody who's celebrating has a great one. Take a little time to relax, take a breather, chill, and why not watch a little bit of your boy right here on The Rose Show with special guest Demolition, one of the greatest tag teams of all time, and that is not an exaggeration. I was so happy to have the opportunity to talk to them, especially on this week of Thanksgiving, knowing the history of Demolition as a tag team and the Thanksgiving season, them being a part of the very first Survivor Series. One of the two members, their last match in the WWE was around this time of Thanksgiving at another Survivor Series of all places, which we'll get into here shortly during the interview. But I just thought it was perfect timing, and it couldn't have came around at a better time. So yeah, super honored to be able to speak with these guys at such a appropriate, I guess, time frame of the year. So yeah, I'm not going to keep you too much longer here because I'm super excited for everybody to see this. But before we get into it, a couple things. As always, make sure you go to my free Patreon account at www.patreon.com/TheRoseShowPod. Join up. Again, 100% free. Come 2025, which I cannot believe is in like 5 weeks away. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff on Patreon that we're not going to be doing anywhere else, just to get out of the algorithm worlds of social media and get you the information that comes with the show sooner than anyone else. It's going to go directly to your email, all updates. And again, before anyone else, you're going to get it. And it's 100% free, so why not, right? And it supports your boy. And not only that, we're going to be focusing super heavy on the Patreon account and rewarding those who join, like we have been doing already with bonus content and other stuff. A little bit of merch drops here and there if all goes well, hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, go ahead and join 100% for free, and it helps your boy out. Not only that, if you also want to help me out wherever you're watching or listening to this on, be sure to like and subscribe, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, whatever it might be. Like and subscribe, because that might be something real small to you, but it's huge for me. So I'm going to let my sponsors take over from here, and then we're going to get into the interview with one of the greatest tag teams of all time, Demolition. Let's go, y'all. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Jay, and I'm here to tell you about my sponsor, W Energy. Now, what is W Energy? Well, I'm going to tell you because I myself use W Energy. Here I've got this Calio cream. It's got a great flavor to it, and not only that, it is clean energy. Energy that's not going to make you crash, not give you the jitters. I've been looking for a reason to drop all my old energy drinks that were unhealthy for me. Too much additives, too much trash in it, too much stuff that's going to make you crash, make you fall asleep at the end of the day. Not W. So how can you get your hands on some W to try? I'm going to tell you how. And I'm going to tell you how to save some money while you do it. Go to www.w.gg, and at checkout, type in my new promo code, and it is Who Else? That's right. The promo code at www.w.gg is Who Else? Because, hey, who else but me, your boy Jay? I wouldn't steer you wrong, right? And when you do, make sure you tag your boy. Let me know you got some, you tried it, and I know you're going to love it. All right, everybody, it's time to stop and let you know about today's sponsor of the show, Crazy Martin's in Piqua, Ohio, one of my favorite places in the entire world to go to. Crazy Martin's has provided their customers with quality products for over 20 years, from ashtrays to water pipes and everything in between. Stop in, check out their selection, and of course, check out their pinball machines. With over 20 pins to choose from, there is something for everyone. Crazy since 1996. I don't just say this about every place. I love going to Crazy Martin's. I've always loved going to Crazy Martin's ever since I was of age to go to Crazy Martin's. It's one of my favorite places in the entire world. Me and my wife go there almost every Sunday to play pinball machines. It is one of the funnest spots in Ohio you could possibly find. It is in Piqua, Ohio. Check out their website at www.crazymartins.com. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of the Bro Show. As always, I'm your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, I have got a group with me that, in my personal opinion, and those of others as well, obviously, tag team wrestling would not be where it is today if it wasn't for the influence of this duo that's here with me today. They scared the living shit out of me as a child. The imagery was like jarring to me, but that's what made it so special. And that's why I have so many fond memories of all the things that they did during their time in the WWF. It is Axe and Smash of Demolition. I cannot explain the honor it is to talk to you guys today. Bill, how you doing over there, my man?
Very good. Glad to be with you, my friend.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Barry, how are we doing this evening?
Unbelievable, and thanks for the kind words. Good to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. I meant every single one of them. And it's when I had the chance to talk to you guys, because I thought 'tis the season. You guys have got so much history around the Survivor Series time frame, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. But not only that, I meant every word I said as far as tag team wrestling, I think really leveled up. And you can make the arguments you want, with early 80s and Midnight Express and all that. But I don't think tag team wrestling had the flair that it did until you guys came along. Because again, when you look back at that time frame, I mean, it was Hulk Hogan and you guys, like even. I don't think anybody has ever had that accolade up until that point. You can make arguments later on down the road if you'd like, but anybody up until that point could ever say a tag team wrestling group rather, was it just as big a star as the biggest person in the country. But we'll go ahead and start at some of the beginning. And I kind of want to touch on some details around some of the stories that we all know, which speaking of, as we all know, originally it was supposed to be Bill and Randy Colley and the demolition gimmick, but obviously it didn't work. People kept, recognizing Randy Colley from his days as a Moondog, and it wasn't really going there. So Barry, when Bill approached you with doing this gimmick, what was your first thoughts of what he was presenting to you? Did you think it was kind of like, I don't know if this is going to work, or were you excited? Or what was your first thoughts when he presented you the idea of doing this demolition thing?
Well, actually, it wasn't Bill that contacted me for this position,
Okay.
and I didn't really know that the demolition even existed. I was down in Crockett's territory, so I never really watched the WWF at the time. I was so busy wrestling where I was. And when I quit there, Vince McMahon called me up, and he's the one that approached me with this gimmick. And I accepted the offer, but it was up to Bill to make sure that I was going to be the right partner for him. So that's when Bill said, he knew the same people I did, and we've met before and everything. He said, yeah, Barry'd be a great partner, so let's do it. And that's kind of how it all got started there.
Yeah. Did they give you any of the details of what exactly it entailed? And if they did, what did you think of the presentation?
Well, they actually brought a book in front of me, and I signed a non-compete that I couldn't tell anybody what was going on. And they had all these different gimmicks in there, and one of them was it kind of looked like what we look like, but it was different, completely different. But it had spikes and leather and all this different stuff. And that's when Vince says, do you think you can pull this off, or do you want to do it? And I said, definitely, I want to do it. And that's when he said, well, it's going to be up to Bill. He would be your partner. And he asked me if I knew who Bill Eadie was and everything. And Bill was in Japan at the time, so I didn't get to talk to him for a few weeks. But it was nice for me to have a few weeks off before I actually started in the WWF.
Yeah, sure. Bill, when you were presented the idea to use Barry in the group, why did you think he was the right person for the job?
Well, I went up to Charlotte and we met. I think we had dinner or lunch or something. But I knew I had met Barry before, but I didn't really know him. But I knew Ivan Koloff, who was his partner at the time. And uh, if Ivan accepted him as his partner, I realized that he must know what he's doing. And after a couple of matches, I mean, we clicked right away. Barry was always willing to learn, and I think the success of our team was that we weren't worried about who was going to shine. We just wanted to have the best match possible hopefully the best match on the card, and therefore be successful. And it happened.
Well, obviously there's always, and I would be on the side of Road Warriors are a copy of Demolition because again, I was a WWF fan when I was a little kid. But obviously, there's always been that comparison between the two groups. And Barry, if I heard my research was right, you grew up with the Road Warriors in Minnesota, and you knew them at an early age. Because if that's true, did you ever have a discussion with them at some point in time while you were in this gimmick at the very beginning stages of whether or not did they think that you were ripping off of them, or did you never have that discussion until later, or was there ever that tension at all between us, like, hey, what the fuck, guys, you guys are kind of taking our stuff, or was that just not a thing?
Well, for 20 years, I never even heard that we were a rip-off or they were a rip-off or a copycat or anything. It was two different teams. But growing up and when we were, trading in and everything, we never had discussions like that. We were just always positive. I hope you make it. And, they used to call me up and say, Barry, all right, I can't wait, till we work together again. And, it was all a positive thing. So I never thought that we were the same as them. We didn't work like them. Our bodies were different than them. So,
Yeah, sure, that's fair. Do you feel the same way, Bill? The same way? It was two completely different teams then?
Well, I always thought that way. I mean, I had met and worked with the Road Warriors when they first came into Georgia as a Mass Superstar. And I, they always gave us good blessings when we'd see each other. I don't think there was any animosity. I think, like you had mentioned before, and I always equate this, there's Road Warrior fans, there's Demolition fans, there's Powers of Pain fans, and there's fans that don't give a shit about either team. So
Yeah, that's
I
totally
think
fair.
there's loyalty with the fan base of every particular team.
Yeah, sure. And I come from a music background, and I think like whoever there's something about face paint, I think, even when it comes to music. Like whoever had the face paint first, from that point on, that's the person you're copying. And that's how it always is in underground music as well. Like you can go even with Kiss. Kiss had the face paint first. So whoever paints their face up after that, whether it be King Diamond. I mean, okay, I guess King Diamond kind of did, but whoever wears face paint, they're a cheap imitation of Kiss, and that's just not right. Like you said, it's different teams and all this stuff. So that's fair. So when you guys got together and things start getting going. And I'm not sure who came up with this, so this might be a little bit of an open-ended question to whoever it might be. How did you guys come up with the finishing move, Demolition Decapitation? Because as a little kid, like I thought you guys were really like tearing somebody in half watching that. Whose idea was it to come up with that finisher?
I, I don't know if it was probably a combination of Barry and myself.
Mm.
Uh, Years ago, when I first got into the wrestling business, uh, the mentor that I had, Guido Mongol, often said, if you have a finish, make sure that you can do that finish with big guys, small guys, in between guys. In other words, everybody. And if you're going to give somebody a power slam, you better be like Tony Atlas, super strong, because you have to be able to give it to the big guys. And it just seemed to work with us. Uh, each of us had a integral part in it. Each of us still feel the results of it today. Barry's got a knee, and my back bothers me. So it was a combination of both our efforts, I think.
And I can't remember a whole lot of things, but I can kind of remember when we were coming up with that finish. And me being the young boy of the team and kind of the young boy of the territory, I always listened to Bill and I always listened to, all the veterans and everything. But I remember you, Bill, coming up to me and saying that, because we were trying to figure out a finish. And you asked me, you said, you think you can pick up almost anybody?
Yeah.
And I was a 700-pound deadlifter, and I said, well, I know I can pick up pretty much anybody. Then you said, can you put them on your knee? And then I said, well, now I don't know if I can do that, because I remember that. And then I was asking you, well, why? And then you said, well, you were thinking of coming off with an elbow, and and I was thinking, oh, you're going to run off the ropes or something and come out. I didn't know you were going to go up to the second rope. So when you know, and me being new to the territory, the youngest guy in the territory, I'm thinking, well, I can do anything. I sure ain't going to say no. So that's when I thought, well, okay, let's try this. And I remember the first time we did it, it was a killer because I didn't know really you had to really throw the guy over, and it about broke my knee, and I know you about broke your back. So I can remember, but then after that, we learned.
And it was effective because we get that question, not in that parameters, but a lot of people do remember the finish. So it must have made an imprint on the fans.
But the worst one was Vince McMahon came to us one night, and he wanted Bill to come off outside. So I had the guy on my knee on the floor, and Bill was up on the second rope and going to the floor. And we both looked at each other, and we should have said no, but we didn't. And both of us about got killed. I mean, of course, I don't know who do we give it to? Was it
Martel. It was
Martel?
In Oakland.
And of course, Martel, he didn't get hurt at all because we're protecting him, and both of us got killed. Bill worse than me.
Yeah, sure. And Martel, that was the Strike Force team of Martel and Tito, right? At that time?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So do you guys think that, and this isn't something that I had planned, but since we're here, I would like to ask, do you guys think that the pairing of Martel and Tito was one of the main reasons why, like, you guys got off the launch you did? Because they were so good as a team. And don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the arrogance gimmick, but I think Strike Force is super underrated. Do you guys think that their abilities helped raise your guys at the same time? Barry, let's start with you, and then Bill, same question when he's done.
Definitely. They definitely did, because they were two good-looking guys, and they were a couple of the best workers in the territory, and you put them together, they were an excellent team, and they probably should have pushed them together a lot longer before we got together with them, but they definitely, the way they worked showed that the Demolition could also work then. You know what I mean? That's how good they were. So they really helped us out.
Yeah, I agree. And both of those guys were good had successes as singles before that. Of course, Tito was in there as a single. And I wrestled many, many times Martel in Montreal. And the quality that they had with fire and their comeback and selling during when we were getting heat on them. I mean, there were so many good tag teams at that time in there. It was hard to have a bad match and a bad night.
And what was great for me is, being new in that territory, I didn't know a lot of the guys, but I had credibility right away coming in and being Bill's partner, because Bill's worked with all these guys before. I worked with all the Southern wrestlers, the Dusty Rhodeses and Flair and all them. Not up in the New York territory. So it was great for me.
Yeah, sure. Like new blood. And hey, timing is everything, especially in wrestling. And I think one of the things timing wise that worked out even great for you guys was your pairing with Mr. Fuji. Because again, heat magnet, holy hell. Little me, I was probably about 4 or 5 when this was all going on. And Fuji was like I hated Fuji just because of, like, I don't know, his presence. There was something about his presence that just added to you guys. What do you guys, and Bill, will start with you, and then Barry will switch it over to you. What do you think it was about Mr. Fuji that just elevated you guys to that next level?
Well, Fuji was well adapted at the wrestling business. He was successful as an individual, and he was even more successful as a tag team. And then he became very successful, and I think he found his niche as a manager, and he was sinister. I mean, he met our character. If you remember back, we had Johnny Valiant before that, and Johnny, nothing against him, but he was out of left field sometimes. He was comical, and with our character and our presence and our entrance and how we wanted to conduct ourselves in the ring, we wanted to be sinister, mean, nasty, and that was Fuji. And Fuji never wanted the spotlight on him. He wanted it focused on the team.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was kind of like less is more for Fuji. And when you looked at Fuji, his face and his
Yes.
facial expressions on the camera, I mean, he just looked like, holy cow, I don't want to mess with this guy. And, he would hit us with the cane to get us going and everything. And he made it look so real that, the people at home would, they just said, this is a bad guy. And, it was almost like when you watched this, you knew we were going to do whatever Fuji wanted us to, but we didn't have to that's kind of the attitude we had because we were tough, but we listened to Fuji, and I think that came across to the people and everything, and that's what made us heels.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we all know, also when it comes to Mr. Fuji, he was a notorious ribber. There's so many stories out there. Any fun Mr. Fuji rib stories that you guys have over the years you were working with him?
Well, he never ribbed us. I think that he respected us, and of course, he knew he'd have to travel with us all the time. So maybe that rib would backfire. But yeah, he had a couple not real nasty ribs on guys, but everybody was kind of leery except us being around him.
And it was funny because he didn't really rib people when we were around. He,
Mm.
I think he respected us too. That we were kind of his bread and butter too, and he didn't want to, get us upset or anything.
Yeah, sure, that's fair. Man, one of the greatest of all time. I was lucky to be in the right phase of life to enjoy some of his best work, in my opinion. Well, the very first pay-per-view that you guys were a part of was the very first Survivor Series of all time, which again, as I said in the intro, one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you guys around this time frame. And what I wanted to ask is the very first Survivor Series, I went back a couple years ago and watched it. And as a fan's perspective, because it was a 10 on 10 man tag, if I remember correctly, um, it seemed like there was a lot of like too many dudes in that ring at one time.
Yeah.
And obviously you guys were a part of that. Was it difficult working? And granted, it was the very first time, so you had to work with what you had to work with. Was it difficult working that very first one, or was it just something of, hey, let's just go out there and see what happens? Barry, let's start with you, and then Bill, we'll go with you with your opinion and memories on that first Survivor Series match.
Well, yeah, it was tough because we didn't know really what to expect and what the people were going to do. But it's kind of, you're a professional and you can pretty much do any match you want to do. So you just do your best. And I think it came across so well. That's why they kept having Survivor Series. It worked. The
Yes.
people got with it, and it was actually a fun thing to do because you got so many guys in there with you. It was good.
Was that the one in Cleveland? Is that what you're referring
Just
to?
outside of just outside of
Yeah,
Cleveland.
Richfield College.
Richfield, yeah.
Coliseum.
Yeah, it was different, and like Barry said, everybody in there, I think, had the same concept. You want to do the best you could possibly do, and you just have to be leery. You can't have too many people in the ring at one time. It's like a battle royal. You got to keep your head on a swivel sometimes because bodies are flying all over the place. But yeah, I think, like Barry said, I think it was successful enough that they said, "Hey, we can do this again."
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that set the tone for the rest of the Survivor Series as well, because even though we switched to the war games these days in 2024, it's still that, one group against another group. So it definitely left the imprint. Absolutely. So obviously we get going, we got Fuji a part of the mix, and then we got the Survivor Series match that happens. At what point do you guys really sit down and Bill, we'll start with you. At what point do you guys sit down and go, man, we really got something going here? The fans are responding to us. How was there any indication where it was really like, holy crap, we've got something really building here? Or was this something just happened naturally over time? Or at what point did you know the Demolition name was really starting to take off?
Well, I'll be very honest with you. I had the feeling that it was going to go even the first night when Randy Colley was with me.
Okay.
The way that people reacted to our entrance, I mean, how the awe factor. And then when we had Jimmy Hart had the music and the entrance music. The people got psyched up as soon as we came through the curtain. So I was excited from day one. But when Barry and I got together and we put all the things together, the music and the entrance and all this, and the way we clicked in the ring, I knew it was going to go. It was just a matter of how high.
Yeah, and for me, I seen all the tag teams when I came in there, and I was kind of in awe at first because I've never met a lot of those guys, and you got the greatest tag teams in the world, and your goal in life in wrestling was to get to the WWF. That was the big guys. But once I got in the dressing room and I was with Bill and we had our first match on TV, and like Bill was saying, the crowd just was like, "Holy shit, what's this?" And I knew right away after the match, we got back in the dressing room, all the other tag teams were kind of looking at us a little different, weren't they, Bill? It
Yeah.
was like, I think these guys are going to get a push here, kind of a deal. And that's I knew it right off the bat, our first match.
With there being so many great tag teams in that era, like you were referring to, and you felt like everybody knew, oh, these guys are going to get a push. Did you guys ever really have any issues with animosity with some of the other teams? And I can't think of anybody specific to really name, so I'll leave it as kind of an open-end question. Was there anybody that really was like, ugh, they just got here, or was everybody kind of accepting of it?
We never heard it. I mean, like Barry said, I had been in there and worked with all these guys many, many, many times in different territories, and I didn't notice any animosity or jealousy. Of course, there may have been, but it wasn't expressed to us. And I think once Vince got behind us, and once people realized that, hey, the object of the business is to make money. If we're
Yes.
going to work with Demolition, or you're going to work with Hulk Hogan, or you're going to work with Savage, or the Warrior, you're going to make more money. So everybody, and Barry will say it too, everybody wanted to work with us.
Yeah, that was the big thing. The first few matches, they're probably wondering what we're going to do, but after they've seen that we worked with a couple of teams, and then pretty soon, the teams wanted to work with you because they knew they were going to have a good match, and we tried to do everything we could to get our opponents over. So when we won, that made us even bigger. Or if we had to cheat, just the philosophy of the wrestling. So I think everybody really wanted to work with us, and they accepted us.
That's definitely awesome to hear. Was there anybody, and Barry, we'll start with you, and then Bill will get your opinion. Is there anybody that you preferred to work with more than the rest, or on the opposite end? Was there anybody where you're like, oh man, they're stiff, I don't want to work with them? And when you think about over your time during that time frame, tag team wise, who are some teams that stick out that that you worked with?
It's we get asked that all the time. Who was your favorite match? Who did you like to work with the most? All that. You know, like we were saying earlier, they're the best tag teams ever. And there were so many of them in the territory, and everybody was good. And that was kind of what was good about us, is we could work with everybody. So one team you had to be strong with, one team you had to be a little weaker with, one you had to wrestle a little bit more. But we had such good matches with the Bulldogs and the Heart Foundation, Powers of Pain. We loved working with those guys, Strike Force. So it's kind of hard to say who was the best ones to work with, but we just enjoyed all of them.
Yeah, we had with the Rockers and Brain Busters and Andre and Haku, like Barry said, uh, Boss Man and Hakeem, and there were the Young Stallions. You could everybody in there, Killer Bees. It would be difficult and unfair to say we'd have preference. We were just fortunate enough that there were so many good tag teams at that time. Like I said earlier, you had to really work horribly to have a bad match.
Yeah,
That's fair.
and what Axe and Smash's goal was to have the best match of the night, and I think a lot of times we had to push the other teams. And maybe they might have wanted to have a night off or something, but we didn't. We always went full go all the time, and we pushed the good matches out of people. And I think that's why a lot of teams really liked working with us because we did get the best out of them and they got the best out of us. So, it was fun every night.
Yeah, I had a good friend of ours that we saw not too long ago, and he said, "We always had a good match with you guys, but we never had a night off." So that's the way it's supposed to be.
That's how we work though.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it left a memorable impression on everybody, and especially to the point where you guys ended up getting to that at that time the longest tag team championship reign of that era. And obviously later, which we'll bring up here in a little bit, obviously that's been broken since then. But when you guys got your championship run that lasted as long as it did you guys know, hey, we're putting this on you guys? Did Vince ever say, we're putting this title on you for a long reign? Or is it one of those things, let's put them on and let's see what happens? And how did that epic reign come about? Bill, we'll start with you.
Well, through my experience, and I'm sure Barry would say the same thing, they give you a belt because they think you can draw money. And when you don't draw money, you don't have the belt. So we were successful for a long time, and even when we lost it, they had already planned to give it back to us for a reason. You're putting dollars in the piggy bank.
What's crazy about the whole thing too is, you're on the road, you know, way more than you're at home, and all you think of is training and wrestling and all that, and having the belt for a length of time. You never even really processed that because it was just every night you wrestled, and like I said, you wanted the best match of the night, and the belts just happened to be there. That wasn't something that it was the most important things in our tag team. It was having the best match. So when it went that 400 and whatever days it was, we never even really knew that. It was just, God, we got to go through the dang airport again with these belts and carry them through there, and then the TSA guys have to put them on and take pictures, and how much longer do we got to do this? That's kind of more of the attitude you had, but very grateful to have them, you know.
Yeah. So obviously it's the record has been broken twice in the last couple of years. We know that. Once by the New Day and then again by the Usos. What do you guys think of those two teams? Because from my perspective, and again, I've been a wrestling fan my entire life. From my perspective, I think you insert, and you could think differently, and we'll get there in a second. I think you could insert either one of those two tag teams into any era and they would be super successful. So if I don't know if you could find either one of two better teams, especially today, that would be okay to break that record. Barry, like I said, we'll start with you. What do you think of those two teams? Let's just put it that way. What do you think of the New Day and the Usos breaking your record?
Well, I didn't even know the Usos broke it, so I haven't watched that close. And the New Day, I saw them wrestle a few times and they're very good. And somebody's got to break the record, but yeah, from what I've heard, the Usos are great guys too. They're kids of parents that we know, and nephews and cousins and all that. So more power to them. But when did they break it?
Usos broke it, I think, either 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. No, it would have been
Oh
a year and a
wow!
half ago because it would have been during the whole bloodline thing that they did with Roman Reigns, and then New Day a year prior to that. So it was well, no, it would have been a year and a half prior to that. So it was very back to back.
So how many
And I
how many
think
days have the Usos had it then? Yeah, I never.
no,
Did you know that, Bill, that they won it?
I knew that they had won the belts a number of times, but I didn't know that they
they
had the
were
record.
622 days. The Usos had it.
Oh wow! Well, they're a
Mhm.
great tag team. I've seen them out there. So I would have loved
Yeah.
to have worked with both those teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys would have been excellent together. And we're seeing that. I know you said you don't watch the product much, but right now Jay Uso is one of the biggest stars in wrestling. And this is one of the things that helped catapulted, easy for me to say, catapulted him was the fact that, and again, I don't think tag team wrestling has the stamp that would catapult somebody to have a mega a career if it wasn't for you guys and the impact that you guys made. So even though they were successful, even though they did hold it for 622 days, I don't know if they do that if it wasn't for you guys. And again, that's just my opinion on it. Bill, same question to you. Do you have any opinion on either one of those two teams?
Well, I don't really know either one of them. I know of them, and from what I have talked to our friends, uh, all four of them, all five of them, I guess, with the New Day, there's three of them, uh, seem to be very good guys, professional, uh, and I'm happy for them. Like Barry said, the record has to be broken. I'm just happy to be involved in there somehow, so they reflect on the success that we had. But wish them nothing but the best. And like you said, I do know that the Uzos are still very, very prominent, especially with this the current situation they have now going on. So all the best to them.
So was is Jay Uso? Is he the one that just beat up Roman Reigns? Was he the main one on there? Was that? I got to look that up.
That's Rikishi's third child, Solo Sikoa, who just the WWE is filled with Samoan wrestlers right now, and I think it's beautiful. But the one that Roman Reigns is feuding with is Solo Sikoa, who is not one of the two twins. He's the younger one. Yeah.
So Jay's one of the twins.
Jay's one of the twins.
All right, yes. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Rikishi, we see Rikishi on the road, and Rikishi's a great guy. We like Rikishi.
But in the middle of your guys' heyday in the WWF at the time, Bill, you actually got a part in the movie No Holds Barred as Jake Bullet. How did that opportunity come across? Was that something that Hulk requested, or did they ask you, or did Vince ask you to do it? How did that part come about for you?
Well, it first started, they had asked Barry to do it. I was ecstatic. See, I was ecstatic because I was going to have 3 days off. He was going to go out to Topeka and do the filming, so that meant I could go home. And that was Vince, I think, mentioned it, didn't he, Barry?
Yeah.
And then a couple days later, Hogan approached me with doing it, and I said, "Well, it was supposed to be Barry. If you clear with Barry, then I'll do it." And it wasn't anything against Barry. It was the fact that Hogan and I had worked many, many, many times in Japan, and Barry graciously stepped aside because now he's got 3 days off.
I was begging for days off.
So we go out, and I met Hogan here in Atlanta, and we flew to Topeka, and we discussed the match on the plane. And we went to the gym, worked out, got up the next morning, do all the makeup stuff. And they had the building scheduled for the whole day. We had set up a 10-minute match, and we went through the match first take. And the director said, "My God, that's good." He says, "That's perfect. What do we do now?" And Hogan says, "Well, I think Bill goes home and I take a break." I was only there we did a couple still shots, hold shots in the corners and stuff like that. And I was gone the next evening, that evening. And of course, Hogan stayed. But either way, we were supposed to get days off. And that's all we were thinking about at that time.
Nice. Barry, I wanted to ask you, obviously later on down, the line of Demolition, we had the issues with Bill. He had the health issues that came up, and you ended up having to work with Crush. Did you have a specific, I guess I shouldn't say specific. Do you look at either incarnation of Demolition differently? Because obviously you were kind of like the mold in the middle. Is there one side of the group that you like better than the other, or was it just different enough that it kept it interesting? Or what did you think of working with Crush as much as you had to because of circumstance?
Well, it wasn't. It was something that had to be done.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I shouldn't say it had to be done, but that's what the office wanted it to be. It was really hard having Bill not be there because we were the tag team, but they wanted Demolition to keep going because they had all these bookings and all this other stuff. So when they brought Crush in, it was just another job to me. It wasn't the same. And Crush tried to do it, make that position, as good as he could do it. But it was hard for the fans to say, hey, why isn't Axe in there? You just don't split the tag team up that's, been the tag team champions so much, and then all of a sudden bring another guy in. So we did the best we did with what we had. And, it was kind of nice when Bill came in and we had some 6-mans and all that. And then it kind of came together again. But, Crush was a great, great guy and a good friend. And, he worked really well, but it was a tough position for him to be in.
Yeah. Bill, did it bother you that you had to share that spotlight, after the fact? Because obviously it was taken from you in circumstances that nobody, would want to happen. Did that really bother you, or was this something that was like, hey, that's life?
No, because while I was in the hospital, I had spoken to Vince, and he promised me a position in the office as an agent. So he said, when you get back, we'll work through the 6-mans and do this. Then you'll transition into an agent. And the parameters of the job, the pay, the duties all changed from the initial conversation to the second conversation to the third and the fourth and the fifth, to the point where I said, I don't think I'm interested. So it went from full-time to barely part-time. And I didn't feel I'd be happy. So I made a call, because I had a standing relationship with Inoki at that time, going back and forth. So I made a phone call, and I think it was before another pay-per-view. And I said, I'm thinking about leaving, and when can I start? And they said, you pick the day. So that's when I gave my notice.
Yeah. And coincidentally enough, another reason why I wanted to talk to you guys today is because your last pay-per-view was a Survivor Series around the same time at Thanksgiving. So that is another reason why I thought this would be the perfect time to talk to you guys, to kind of wrap up, my questions for the great Demolition. So as we wind down here, Barry, we'll go ahead and start with you. Do you have any favorite memories during your time being in the Demolition group when you really think about from starting point to ending point? Do you have any favorite memories that stick out more than the rest during your time as a part of Demolition?
There's quite a few of, different things that have happened and stories. And, we were all in Italy in the real Coliseum, and seeing that stuff. And, whenever you get time off with all the guys and everything, you have a great time. But I think my most memorable was probably wrestling Andre the Giant and Giant Baba in Tokyo. To me, that was kind of like the highest point of my career, because I went in for Giant Baba, worked for him quite a few times, and never thought I'd ever work with him, and then work with Andre at the same time. I mean, that was probably the most memorable time I've ever had.
Fair enough. Bill, same question.
Well, recently, when you think back on it, we had, like Barry said, we had so many daggone good times. But I think the thing that sticks out to me, we've been together 37, 38 years. Never had an argument, never had words with each other. Work, both of us were hurt. The other guy covered for us. So the friendship, I would think, for me, is probably the most memorable.
Yeah, and I agree with that too.
Yeah, that's something that you can never replace. So absolutely, that's a great answer.
What's funny is we've been going out the last few weekends, and we go up pretty often, and we just sit and look at each other and we just laugh. It's like, isn't this just the greatest thing? We're still on the road, and we wanted to get off the road. Now we're back on the road again.
Yeah, it's funny how that works, isn't it? Well, I always end any conversation I have with anybody that's been in the industry by saying thank you. what you guys have done, even when you're talking about, what you had to do with your finisher, what you guys put your bodies through for our entertainment. It's something that created a lifelong fandom for me. My earliest memory in life is watching professional wrestling. I've talked about it on this show all the time, and I know I could never do it. So I always make sure that I, at least, even though you probably hear it 100 times a day when you're at these conventions, what you guys have done has created memories for me that even through some of the darkest times of my life, this was a shining moment. I never had a father growing up, but I always had professional wrestling. I never had a lot of friends growing up, but I always had professional wrestling. And it's always something that I can go back to and relive those memories on my own. So thank you guys both very much for everything you put yourself through for the sake of the fans. I speak for all of us when I say I don't know if mentally a lot of us would be in the same place that we were without that form of entertainment. So thank you guys very much. You were some of the greatest of all time, in my opinion. And again, thank you guys. It's been an honor.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for having us on. Really appreciate it. And thank all the fans too.
Absolutely.